Let's get to our first guest. Gary Cohn was the former National Economic Council Director in the Trump administration, former president of Goldman Sachs, currently vice chair of IBM, and he joins us here at Post 9 with our Sarah Eisen.
It's fun to
Sarah,
be here
great
tonight.
to have you tonight.
Yeah.
What a privilege to do this kind of coverage on a night like this.
Especially here at the New York Stock Exchange. Gary, we're thrilled to have you here as a former policymaker in the White House, executive, trader. You can bring a good perspective. Thank you for being here.
Sarah and Carl, thanks for having me.
So what's at stake for investors in this election?
There's a lot at stake. But on the other hand, there could be very little at stake because we've got a lot going on tonight. We're all concentrating right now on the presidential election, but we also have a House and a Senate election. And remember, policy has to go through the House and the Senate. The White House is a dominant factor, and they'll drive a lot of the initiatives, but ultimately we need legislation to change a lot of the policies that are going to affect the markets and are going to affect the way people think of investing their money.
What comes to mind when you think about the different policies at stake, either from the presidency or from Congress, as far as investors are concerned? Because we have seen this nice run-up in stocks, mostly attributed to the Trump trade, that his chances are good.
We have. So first of all, I think the biggest topic that people talked about, and it's one of the key differences between the two candidates, has been their view on tax policy. And I think the reason we talk about tax policy so much is because the tax reform that was done in 2017.
Which you had a little hand in.
Yeah, the personal side of it. And I think people don't understand this enough. Just the personal side of it has a cliff that ends at the end of next year. So the corporate side will not change. The personal side will revert back to where it was in 2017. But as we all know, if we're going to open a tax discussion, probably everything will be on the table. But on the other hand, if nothing is done whatsoever and Congress cannot agree on it changes to what the law is today, there is a mechanism for just to revert back to where we are. Now, reverting back to where we are is a complicated tax system. We simplified the tax system quite dramatically. We cut down the amount of brackets. We got rid of a lot of the complexity.
The Trump administration. So reversion back would be a problem.
Reversion back would be a two-sided, full-page 1040 form. Now we're a half a page 1040 form. You'd have itemized deductions. You'd have standard deductions. Yes, you'd bring back SALT. You'd have more tax brackets. You'd have much higher tax brackets. And then you'd have the alternative minimum tax. So the way that we all think about investing, the way we think about deductions would change and change quite dramatically.
Can you tell viewers why it was structured that way, to revert?
So it was structured that way because when the policy went through, it was done through something called reconciliation.
We all remember that.
Okay. Reconciliation is a way that you can get something through the Senate with a simple majority, a 51-vote majority. You can do that for budgetary matters only. But when you go through reconciliation, you have a very stringent set of rules that you have to abide by. And when you score your legislation, it has to score to the penny or underneath what Congress has allowed you to spend in the piece of legislation. To allow that tax reform to score, the way we got it to score, all of us involved, there was a huge group of people involved, was to end the personal tax reform at the end of 2025. That allowed it to score. We all thought, everyone involved thought it was more important to keep the corporate tax unchanged because corporations make 10 and 20 and 30-year capital investments. They need to understand the tax code that they're dealing with. On the flip side, individuals tend not to make long-term capital investments, and we thought that individuals could deal with a changing tax code. And when we got to it in 25, if that's the year they got to it, that Congress would understand what was going on. And if the tax changes had been as effective as we thought they would be, and I think they have been, that Congress may choose, and we hope that they would choose, to extend the tax policy.
So it only changes if we don't have a divided government, though, right?
Well, I don't know about that. I think it could change with a divided government. I think there are probably some places where a divided government could agree. It seems like both candidates were talking about bringing back SALT deduction. Now, if you bring back the SALT deduction, it's a very large deduction. I might call it a loophole. It's a very large loophole in the tax code where people that live...
A lot of people in New York would be happy.
A lot of people in New York. I personally would be very happy. But it's a large loophole with people that pay a lot of real estate taxes and pay a lot of state and local taxes get to deduct that from their federal taxes. It seems like both candidates were in favor of that. It seems like both candidates wanted to potentially lower tax burdens on certain types of income. Now, those things are interesting, but at the end of the day, they will cut down on the amount of the revenue that the government takes in. I don't know if there's an appetite on both sides of the aisle to decrease revenue, especially as we talk about debt and deficit, because that's another major factor that I think investors are starting to worry about.